Hey guys, my name is Ffion Davies. I'm a two-time world champion and ADCC champion. This instructional is going to be all based on the close guard, so it's going to be all of my favorite techniques from close guard, mostly focusing on the overwrap and the shoulder crunch and all my favorite submissions from here. So I hope you enjoy. I hope you check out the techniques and give them a go. And if you do, I hope it goes well for you. Alright guys, so we're going to start off in the close guard position. Okay, so first of all, we're going to look at how we're going to maintain the position. So first of all, my hips. I'm going to look to have my hips on top of my partner's hips. One common mistake that people will make from the close guard is to keep their hips attached to the mat here. So if you look at the join behind me here, when my ankles are joined across together, if my hips are on the mat like so, it's going to put a lot of pressure on my ankles, which means that even if he just concaves and arches his back here, it's going to put pressure on my ankles and it's going to put enough pressure to potentially break that joint. So I want to have my hips elevated on top of my partner's hips here, which is going to now make a lot more space behind me. Okay, so that joint is much easier to close, particularly if you have shorter legs. So when I'm in the close guard, I'm always going to go up onto my shoulders like this and walk myself as close as possible so that our hips are close to each other. Now I have a lot more space behind me and it's much easier to maintain this close guard position. So next thing we're going to look at when we're here is the positioning of my partner's hands. So if the hands are on the mat like so, okay, we can kind of do whatever we want. We can attack the arms here. We can break their posture very easily. So most people are going to have their hands on my body, whether it's on my hips here or sometimes even with a staggered grip. Okay, so if the hands are at my hips, this is a great opportunity to break their balance. So whenever they have their hands here, although they have some sort of post on me, they don't have any post on my upper body. Having the upper body post is much harder in no-gi because obviously we don't have those grips that we can take. Okay, so a lot of people will end up putting their hands here. I would say this is not a huge mistake, but there's an opportunity here for me on bottom. So every time the hands are just on my hips here and there's nothing posting through my upper body, I can take this chance to either grab behind the elbows or you can just bring your knees to your chest to break the posture. Sorry, I should have warned you. So I'm here. I'm going to drag my knees to my chest, but I'm also going to bring my chest up towards my knees. So I'm making like a crunching motion to help break that posture. So I'm here. Whenever the hands go back or even if they reach behind to go for my knee, I break their posture. Because if I sit here and I watch as they look to push on my knee, okay, even though this is not the strongest escape, they can still start to break open the lock if I sit and I don't react. Okay, so whenever the hands are here, I take that opportunity. You've seen it before where people go behind and grab at the elbows. This can make it even stronger. So if I'm dragging my knees forward, I can also pull at the elbows to encourage that fall forward. This now will open up a lot of opportunities for attacks. Okay. Now, if my partner goes two hands in the armpits, okay, this is probably a lot more of a common escape that people will do from close guard in no-gi. Okay, the two hands here, because as they stand up, what they'll usually do to control and stop my hips from swiveling is pinch tight as they stand. So if you go all the way up here, now my hips are immobilized and it's going to be very hard for me to attack. Okay, so this is a much more serious thing to have to get rid of, okay? So whenever they bring their hands into my armpits, I need to be looking to go on the inside here, okay? And make sure that this is very difficult to get. So I'm gonna keep my hands tight. If they have it on the inside, look, I need to make sure I'm swiveling to the inside here, pummeling through to break those grips. Or the best case is always gonna be to avoid it in the first place. So when they're trying to get their hands in the armpits here, look, I'm keeping this place nice and closed. I'm not sitting here open, given the opportunity. I'm keeping my elbows nice and tight here. I can bring them on the inside. And then look, I'm crunching side to side. Okay, so rather than laying completely flat here with my torso exposed, I'm crunching inwards with my elbows and I'm moving to the side. And now look, whenever they're trying to get a grip, okay, I'm here, I'm hand fighting, pushing the hands off of my torso. And then if the hands both come to the hips, we break that balance. And then we look to advance position from here. So those are just a few tips before we get into the position on how we're going to maintain. I'll go over some of those like concepts and things in more detail as we go through some techniques we're going to look at, but just some things for you to bear in mind when you're in the position. Okay, so now we're going to enter into the overhook close guard position. I really like this as an option to keep my partner's balance broken and keep their posture nice and low. Because when my partner is here, they're much closer to standing up. In my opinion, for the person on top, the best option for them is going to be to fully stand. If you think about what we talked about earlier, where I have the joint behind my partner's back, the most pressure on that joint is going to be when my partner is standing. So if I have you stand up. So look, you can see here, my body is being dragged to the mat, okay? And now there's a lot of pressure on my ankles. That's why standing is the best option for him. It's minimal effort, and if you stand all the way tall and push the knee, it's much easier to break the legs there, okay? So even without them having to push the legs, I can feel a lot of pressure on my ankles versus when I bring my partner forward and we're chest to chest here. You can see there's far more space behind me, and I can even unlock it, okay, and just close like this. Especially if your partner is a lot bigger than you and you're finding keeping a joint difficult, you can squeeze your knees and just dig your heels around their waist here, if you can't make a joint, okay? But that's a bit concerning. So when I'm here now, my partner's got their hands on the hips, or they're trying to get their grips into the inside of the armpits here. I'm going to keep nice and close, we're hand fighting, okay? And I'm going to try and swing my hands to the inside. So you're going to make prayer hands here, okay? As I bring my hands together, I'm going to open out and roll forward. But something that's really important is that I'm dragging my knees forward as I do this. So say if my partner just has like basic hands on the hips and I've tried to break the posture and I've had no luck, okay? I'm going to bring my hands to the inside, make these prayer hands. So I'm going underneath the wrists and I open out. And at the same time, as I bring the hands together like a prayer, I'm going to now drag my knees to my chest, and my chest crunches up towards my knees. So I swing in and I drag. As I come through here, look, my hand is going to wrap over one of the arms. It can be whichever side you prefer, whatever feels most comfortable for you, that you could then link onto the attacks. So I make my overhook over and around the tricep. I don't want to be too low here where he can now posture up and start to slip the elbow. I need to make sure I'm above the elbow, and I'll always overshoot. So just being a little bit over is probably not going to be enough. I aim almost up into the armpit here. So now it's very, very flush to his body. Also, when I'm here though, something you have to bear in mind is if I just grip and I'm doing nothing with this far side hand, my partner can still posture up, and now look, it starts to slip. I'm trying to pull him back down, he keeps posturing up. Eventually I'm going to lose that. So when I'm here, I swim, I break the posture, I go deep here, so kind of like a pirate. I hate this analogy, but I keep saying it. But like a pirate when they go arg. Okay, I'm going to go deep here into the armpits. So you have to make sure this is nice and tight and the elbow is flush onto the shoulder. And now this hand, I'm going to grip behind the head. Reason being that I like to grip at the head is because if you imagine trying to posture up where your partner is hanging off your head, it's significantly harder than if I'm like hugging here at the torso, right? Whenever he looks to stand up tall, he's going to be leading through his head to sit up. If you do it like this, right? So if I hug on the back of the head here and I make sure my chest is staying nice and connected, when he looks to sit up, it's much heavier. Now, some people will still be able to stand up or be able to sit up from here. But if that's the case, if he sits up, okay, I'm going to go with him. And now from here, my feet are going to base on the mat. So I stay connected. If I'm loose like this, okay, it's much more tiring. And look, he can swim that hand to the inside and start to push me back down. So as he sits up with me, I base my feet on the floor. And now I'm going to do a big bridge and arch backwards. That's going to drag him back down. And every single time he may sit up again. So look, he sits up. I drag him down. Eventually, okay, that's going to become very tiring for my partner. And it's not very tiring for me because I'm keeping that connection. I'm not leaving space between us where I'm doing a crunch. I'm letting him carry my body weight. And now it's not me, using my arms to drag him back. I'm literally just basing my feet on the mat, doing a big bridge, and my body weight drags him back down. Very tiring for him to keep sitting up, and eventually he may try something different. So now I've got my overwrap position. I'm going to keep control on the head, and this is where we're going to be working our attacks. So from the overhook position here, okay, we've got a grip behind the neck, got a little gooseneck grip here, hugging behind the neck, and we've got our arm through nice and deep. Okay, so whenever I feel like this is loosening up, another thing that you can do is base here on the hip, angle off your hips. So now I can tighten it on this side by creating a little angle rather than being fully square here, where my partner can start to bring their shoulder to this side, square up, and then start to posture from here, okay? It's a little bit easier for them to slip if they put their weight into this shoulder. So to counteract that, we can always start to make this little angle. This little angle here, so bring it from this side, okay, is going to make it a lot easier for us to attack a triangle as opposed to having our hips square to our partner. So again, to create that angle, I have the overwrap, swan, any bird you like, okay? It's going to hug behind my partner's head. I base here on the hip, so my foot is going to come out of the closed guard now, okay, unwrap, base on my partner's hip, off angle here, so look how my leg is pinching down heavy, okay, that's going to help counteract the fact that we have to release this in a moment. I'm going to now bring my leg over the shoulder, and that's going to help keep his posture broken a little bit, okay? Once I'm here now, I can start to look at taking this leg out of the position. So we have to contest with this far side hand. I can be doing a number of different things. Some people may opt to try and push this leg down. Okay, this is going to be very easy for us to come on the inside and attack our triangle. Okay, so a lot of people may not take the bait and start to try and press this down. Okay, they may just keep their arm tight in a way, like if you keep it tight to your chest, like this, yeah. Okay, if that's the case here where I can't push it down and bring that like spider hook on the inside, I'm going to instead, look, hand comes underneath his wrist, push it into the chest, and then jump over. Okay, doesn't really matter if the finger's on the inside because my leg is flush to the side of his neck here. Okay, so whichever option it is, if the elbow is flaring, so if you push on the knee, push on the knee, okay, I base this foot on the hip, foot comes to the inside, you can stretch. This is particularly nice if you have long legs. I'm not blessed in that way, but if you are, crack on. Okay, and then from here, look, I'm gonna hop my hips up. If I just slip and lock, there is a lot of space between my hips and his upper body, okay, between his hips and his head. So look, that's joining that triangle is be very difficult. So I need to make sure that as I step over, look, I bring my hips up, then lock. And you can see it's flush to the side of his head. When I do this, my overwrap is going to loosen to give myself space. So look, it's going to turn from overwrapping here to gripping the tricep. And then as I step to lock here, I can start to look at bringing this to the side. Okay. Alternative option is here. If the elbow's very tight and I can't swivel my foot to the inside, catch the wrist, really simple, or just push the hand into the chest. Same thing, hop my leg up, okay? Using my foot on the hip as a little step to help me lift. Now, from here, the inside of my knee, okay, the knee pit, okay, it's nice and close and flush to the side of the neck. It has to make sure that if your triangle isn't on, so when you put your partner in the triangle, it's going to be one of the two sides that isn't being compressed, right? We're trying to compress either side of the neck, the carotid arteries. Like a scientist, I'm saying that. So I have to make sure there's no space or nothing blocking here. So look, that is hooking super tight. There's no space there, okay? On the far side, now that I have the tricep, I'm going to look to meet my heel onto the shoulder here. That's going to ensure my angle is good. Walk my shoulders out a little bit so that there's more space. Otherwise, if I stay too close here, he can start to stack me up. And this is not great, particularly for your lower back. So I'm going to make sure I walk my shoulders out. That's going to give you much more space now to lock over. If you're not able to lock immediately, you can just go to diamond. Okay, here just to have your partner trapped in this position, but be mindful of your hip positioning as well. If he looks to drive his body this way, my hips will start to fold, and we don't want that. So I need to make sure I'm shoulder walking back, but I'm also keeping my hip bones facing the ceiling. So now when I'm here, I grab the tricep, pull the arm nice and taut, catch, and lock. Now from here, okay, you can probably finish because I turn you this way. As I've locked on here and I catch, okay, this shoulder's probably going to dig into the side of his neck fairly strong. Now he's bigger than me, he's got big shoulders, it's going to go into the side of the neck easier because it's a bigger lump to go into the neck, right? So, sorry. so if you need to make more of an angle, okay, you can finish here, potentially, catch the shin or grab the head and squeeze, or if you need more of an angle, underhook here. And now sometimes, if you can't lock, you can drag. I like this particularly when there's a bigger size difference, if they're significantly bigger, but you have the opportunity to finish here. Drag your knee along the rib cage to catch that shoulder, and then you can meet here and then finish that lock. Okay? So we're trying to get that side angle. If you could underhook the leg, that's a great option too, but I mostly just look to underhook this far side down. So one more time. We're here, swim to the inside. We get our overwrap, we make sure we catch the head. So just to get in the habit of preventing that posturing up. From here, look, I step on the hip. So I use him as a climbing frame to switch my hips here to the side. And now from this position, when I'm here, I've posted, I fold this knee over to keep the posture broken. Now we make our choice on which way we're going to bring our leg free. Now when his hand comes in tight, I push it to the chest, I step. If the elbow is wide here, now look, foot comes through, step. Adjust yourself to make sure you don't get your hips stacked up. That's going to be a really good counter for my partner, is to stack my hips up, make it uncomfortable for you to maintain position. I've loosened this now, so I'm grabbing the tricep, hack, and squeeze. Okay, so I can finish it square, but it's always going to be best if we can bring this arm across, or even if I can't bring this across, underhook this far side. When I turn my body to the side like that, I'm using stronger muscles where I'm hamstring curling down, as opposed to a traditional triangle where we're just squeezing here and it's harder to close that space. So now we're going to look at the 100% sweep. No, I have no idea if it's actually called that, but this is what I've just heard it being called a few times. So it's going to be again off of that overhook position. We're here, okay, and maybe we're struggling with catching an angle here or offsetting our hips. So this is really common and fairly easy to get when my partner is driving heavy into me and maybe they're being a little bit negative. So when they're driving in and they're burying low here, they've kind of accepted they can't posture out of the position. This is where we're going to go for it in this scenario, okay? So what I'm going to look to do, I'm still going to try and offset my body a little bit here. So I don't want to be fully square to my partner, and there's very few times where I want to be completely square like this. So although I may not be able to step on the hip, now it's always going to be better if I can to help me angle off here, okay? If I can't do that, I'm just going to side crunch to that side to off center a little bit. And now if he's still bearing in and driving in heavy here, now I'm going to look to bring my elbow to this side. Okay, so rather than having my hand on this side of his head, I'm going to bring my elbow over here on this angle. Now, when I start to wrap over this position, I usually look to pretend I'm going for a guillotine with no intention of actually doing a guillotine here. I usually find if I try and guillotine from the close guard, although it's obviously possible, it's a little bit more difficult, particularly when they're driving in heavy like this. But I look to swim my hand to that position here with my hand and my wrist here is going behind and underneath their neck. Okay, just so it looks like I'm attacking something and gives my partner something to think about. This will usually result in them looking to reach the hand up, okay, to try and catch through here, to bring his hands to try and pull away at my neck. Because although he may feel like he's not really in danger, nobody wants their partner's wrist going towards the neck here. Okay, they have to sort of act on it, even if it's not a serious threat. So once he starts to bring his hand in, that's where I'm going to look to now dig under this armpit. Okay, so I'm setting up a trap, looking at what reactions he'll probably have if I look to attack something else. Okay, so laying some bait, he goes to defend the bait, and that's where I get the actual sweep that I want. Okay, so look, I overhook here, and say if he didn't look to defend it at all, he's just hanging out, okay? In that case, we go and we attack that guillotine. Okay, so if he's not playing into the game that I'm trying to set up, we go for the original attack. But most people will bring their hand to defend. So when he does this, if I turn you this way, okay, so as he does this, I'm going to now switch my hand underneath here because there should be some space because the positioning his arm is in when he's looking to defend that choke. So I switch from here, I dig under the armpit, and I'm going to join my hands. So you can see here his head is right underneath my armpit. Really important when I'm here in closed guard, I'm not like this. Yeah, my head is attached to the mat because now he can slip through that space. There's too much space here and he can pull himself out. Not the end of the world. Look, I can still look to link to other attacks here on this far side, but for my intention, it's not great. So once I get to here, my head, the back of my head is off the mat. I'm crunching forward and I'm closing that space. So now when he tries to posture away and pull his head out, there should be minimal space between us, making it very hard for him to do that. I'm folding my elbow over his head here. Now, once I'm here, I can drag and start to off balance in this direction. Okay, but if you want to make it even stronger, you can see he's posting on his hand here, which is good defense, right? So what I'm going to look to do is drag my forearm here up all the way as close to his elbow as possible without losing the head. That's going to start to bring his arm in tighter, making it easier now to start to off balance and fall to this far side. Once I get to here, I'm going to release the head as it's fairly uncomfortable on my partner, and I have a nice head man bound position to finish with. Okay, so we're here. We have our over wrap position. Okay, my partner's bearing in low. I'm going to offset my body a little bit here and start to hug over the head. When I go here, he's usually going to bring his hand in to defend. Okay, defend his neck. He's trying to stay safe here. In that opportunity, I swivel my hand underneath his armpit like this, and I join as soon as I can. You can potentially break his posture this way with just this grip here, and then off balance. My off balance is going to look like a scissor sweep, where I'm kicking this leg low on the far side, and this leg is going to kick high in this direction where I've already broken down his posture and his post. So look, this kicks up low, this kicks high, and I can release here. Okay, if I need that extra extension here, and he's fairly strong, I'm going to go up higher towards the elbow. I just need to make sure I'm crunching down nice and tight here, and now I can really start to drag on this side before I can tip all the way to this side. Some people, when you start to crunch over the head like that, some people might even tap just with pressure, okay? But if they relax and they go with the sweep, it won't be uncomfortable or painful. All right, guys, so now we're going to look at the omoplata from that overhook position. So when I go and swing my hand on the inside, we get our overhook here. And again, I can't stress it enough, my hand is always going to link behind the neck or to the back of the head here, just to ensure that he can't posture up fully. Now, when I'm looking to attack my triangle, usually what will happen when I try and offset my hips here is when I'm looking for this far side arm, my partner will have to dip their shoulder low to prevent this, okay? Or even if I get my leg up and over the shoulder and I get a diamond position here, they start to drop their shoulder heavy and angle their hips to prevent that triangle, okay? So what I'll look to do when I have this position and this starts happening here where I'm really struggling to get my leg over my triangle position, I'll usually use this reaction to take the omoplata. Personally, I prefer this as I feel like you have more options to sort of springboard off of this position. So once they start to drive this, if I go for the triangle first, I usually get this reaction so I can like create this reaction, okay? So once I'm here, I loosen my overwrap and just turn it into a grip over the tricep here, and I keep my knee here going down heavy on the shoulder. If I stay crunched up like this when my head is close to my partner's head, it's going to be very difficult to bring my leg over. Okay, it's going to rely a lot on flexibility. Okay, I do have a bit of flexibility here, but this won't be applicable for everyone to drag their knee to their chest. And especially when there's resistance, I'm not going to reach with my leg here and start yanking it in this direction when my partner is then going to suddenly start driving, and that's going to put pressure on my knee. So what I'm going to do to give myself the space to bring my leg over, I'm going to arch away here. Okay, so I'm starting with my head fairly close to my partner's head. I'm folding my knee over, and now look, my head's going to arch away until I can come up onto my elbow. So look, I arch, stretch my body away, and look, my elbow can come out here, and that's going to give me much more space to start to bring my leg over his head here. So if you do have that flexibility, you can go here. You don't need to arch away. You can literally reach through and drag. You have a bit more room to play with, that's true, but it's still available, and I would much rather to avoid any injuries on my knee by dragging my own foot towards my head. I'm going to arch my body away here, come up onto my elbow so I can stretch. Okay, and now there's way more space and it's less reliant on flexibility to bring this leg over and across. Once I get this foot over, okay, it makes it easier to bring this leg free. So if I wasn't already here in a diamond position where that leg is free up and it was starting from the closed guard, when I fold here, as I bring this across, look, I can kick away. I'm going to keep hold of my partner's elbow here, making sure he doesn't just flop his arm out. Okay, so I pull that through. I can extend away towards the head, and that'll help free up that far leg that was across the hip. Okay, so I'm here. Okay, my partner's sitting heavy on this side, making it really difficult for me to go towards that triangle on that side. His shoulder is too far rotated in this direction. So look, I can even push the head away to help me extend here, all the way up until, if necessary, you can come to your elbow. You don't have to come up onto your elbow, but if you need more extension and space and distance from your partner, you can absolutely come up here where I can base up, okay? Once I get to this position, look, this leg goes from folding on top, so my knee is pointed down and up towards his head. I'm going to bring it across. I can extend under the neck to help free this leg through. Okay, so it goes from here, loop, extend, base, and now look, my hips are currently folded over. This will give my partner opportunity to step his hips over, and if he steps over here, okay, I'm not going to land in a great position, right? So to prevent this, as I stretch out here, when I'm up on this elbow, if he looks to step over now, it's much easier for me to stretch up to my hand and hug over the hip, preventing that, because my head is now higher than his hip. So for him to step over my head, even if I don't have the arm wrapping around his hip, is much harder, right? Because I'm higher than him. So I'm here. I fold up onto my elbow. Look, he's going to start to bring his hips over this way. I bring my arm up to block, base, and now my arm is going to hug. Bring it this way. Sorry. He's going to hug over to the far side, okay? Just so now if he's trying to hop his hips, it's much harder. Once I'm here though, right now my hips are square. I'm going to grip onto his elbow, so I grab his elbow to make sure it's always through. What I don't want to happen is his elbow starts to slip out here, okay? So I'm keeping his hand and his wrist across my hip on this side. I hug nice and tight here, and I'm going to base my feet, start to bring my body out to the side. So look, I'm going heavy on this hip now. I can keep going heavy until potentially I can flatten him out here. Okay, and now I'm going to reach over either into a seatbelt, or you can grip overhead here like this too. Doesn't really matter, just pick a grip that's comfortable for you. And then look, from this position, my feet are going from sort of straightening out here to a staggered step. So my heel comes in nice and tight towards my knee. We've got this like Z position of our legs. I keep a hold of this elbow to make sure it doesn't slip. This is particularly important when your partner's very flexible. So if I was rolling with another woman, like in tournament and stuff like that, they tend to have more flexible shoulder and elbows. So I need to make sure, if I want to keep that nice and tight, okay, that I'm controlling those positions and I'm heavy with my knee behind that shoulder here. And now when I'm in this position, I'm going to start to elevate my hips here and walk backwards. Sorry. So as I lift my body up, I'm driving over this far shoulder, and then I'm going to move my hips backwards here to apply more pressure. Okay? So one more time. We're here. We get to our over wrap. Okay, fold over, I can base that foot on the hip to bring on this angle. And now from this position, look, I fold over his back. That's going to prevent him posturing up too much, okay? You might need to step a little bit, but as we stretch out here, that leg is going to get heavier and heavier. Okay, so I make sure I'm closing the space in nice and tight so you can't just slip his arm. And always you can reinforce it if you feel like they have flexible shoulders where they can really turn their arm to spaghetti and start to fold it out here. Look, I'm going to grip the elbow. So just to reinforce position where they have that extra flexibility. Now from here, okay, the leg is still across the hip. Some people may opt to like try and grip that leg or close that space, okay? Because I've made enough distance now, I can bring this foot underneath, and if the chin is up, you go under the chin, okay? If not, we're just gonna have a foot in the face, unfortunate for him. Okay, and I can stretch out here.
Now from this position, I can use this leg stretching heavy to kick this free. I can base up to my hand. Look, this hand is already reaching to the far side, making it easier for me to switch my hips here. And I'm going to go from here with like crossed feet here, where I'm stretching out, to folding to that Z staggered stance. And now look, I'm going heavy on the hip, nearest to the shoulder. I grip over to the far side. You can loop that far arm if you want to, or go seatbelt position. I can start to drag my partner out and down until they're flattened out here. And now you have a great position to start to elevate and get your finish.